There was a time when I wore a name tag at a local diner, pouring coffee and dodging sullen glances from customers who couldn't see past my apron. I used to think success was reserved for people who were born wearing designer suits, not for someone like me who lived paycheck to paycheck, sneaking glances at bills I couldn't afford. The world told me my dreams were too big for my little life, and I nearly believed it. But deep down, I knew I was meant for more. Then you have Christopher Langford, a name that echoed through boardrooms and glimmered in headlines. The man was a powerhouse, a self-made billionaire on the verge of a groundbreaking AI acquisition. But as I served him that evening, he seemed more like a king teetering on the edge of a throne made of glass. A man with success in his pocket, but shadows lurking behind him. Little did we know our lives were about to intertwine in a way that neither of us expected. See, that dinner wasn't just another meal for him. It could well have been his undoing. And when I accidentally overheard a whisper about betrayal, well, it hit me hard. I was scared. Scared of losing my job, scared of stepping out of the shadows. But in that moment, I realized that sometimes fate hands you a choice. A chance to stand up for what's right, even when it feels like the world is against you. It was time to decide if I would be a passive observer, or if I could help rewrite both our stories. It was one of those nights you could feel in your bones, electric and heavy, as if the air itself held its breath. I was busy serving tables, but I couldn't shake the nagging whispers entangling themselves into my thoughts. It wasn't just the usual stress of the diner or the ache in my legs. No, this was different. This was danger. And I knew it the moment I overheard those two men in the corner booth, their voices low but unmistakably sharp, like knives glinting under the flickering restaurant lights. "He thinks he's safe," the first man sneered. But by the end of the week, Langford's going to wish he'd never trusted anyone else. The deal's going to implode. The second man laughed, a sound that made my insides twist. I couldn't just let that stand. I couldn't sit idly by while anyone got blindsided. I thought of my mother, her frail figure lying in that hospital bed, the sting of losing her health insurance gnawing at me. I couldn't bear to watch someone else fall victim to betrayal. Gathering my courage, I approached him, my heart pounding like a war drum. "Mr. Langford," I whispered, urgency bleeding into my voice. "You need to know. There are people plotting against you." His eyes hardened, confusion and disbelief mixing behind them. "What do you mean?" the restaurant manager, Mr. Hawthorne, intervened. "Maya, what do you think you're doing? You'll ruin everything you need to leave him alone." I could feel the heat rise in my cheeks, a mixture of anger and desperation. I'm trying to help, but he didn't care. To him, I was just a waitress, a face behind the serving trays, easily dismissed. And as I stood there, hounded by his words, an icy chill ran through me. I knew that if I was going to push forward, I'd have to risk everything: my job, my dignity, and potentially my future. But sometimes fighting for what's right means confronting your own fears and unmasking the more dangerous threats lurking in the shadows. I could feel the tension knotting around us like a vice. This wasn't just a job anymore. It was a full-throttle battle for survival, and I was determined not to back down. As Maya stepped back into the shadows of the restaurant, she felt like a juggler with too many flaming torches everywhere she turned. Something was threatening to burn her out. At that moment, she was fighting against a whirlwind of doubt. Did she really think Langford would believe some waitress with a side gig as a fortune teller? The crushing weight of potential unemployment pressed down on her. The manager, Mr. Hawthorne, often tried to act like the sharpest knife in the drawer, but really he was the dullest spoon. He called her into his office, cued the dramatic music, and threatened her job the way a kid threatens to tell if you eat their candy. You think you can just walk up to a billionaire and play saviour? You're nothing here. Seriously, who needed that kind of negativity? But for every punch of discouragement, there was a little spark, a flicker of determination. Maybe she wasn't a suit and tie corporate warrior, but she had a moral compass, and that had to count for something. After all, wasn't saving a man's career the kind of stuff you read about in fairy tales? Meanwhile, Langford, though, he had everything: a luxury yacht, a penthouse view, and probably more suits than he could count. Felt like a deer caught in headlights. For a guy who engineered million-dollar deals like clockwork, his gut was now twisted tighter than a pretzel at a carnival. Because, let's face it, who expects a warning from a waitress over their fettuccine alfredo? Yet, as he mulled over Maya's words, his instincts began to grind against the grain of disbelief. Could he really be staring into the abyss of betrayal? And in that abyss, what would he find? Maybe the truth that rebuilding from zero isn't just about dragging oneself back up, but about gathering the kind of people you never expected, like a waitress with fire in her heart. God knows he could use that kind of team spirit now more than ever. The stakes had never felt so high, and the fear of failure clawed at him like an unwelcome houseguest. But with every doubt there was a gust of resolve pushing back each tiny moment of defiance, building towards something deeper than either could have imagined. Would they falter? Absolutely. But might they also rise? Well, sometimes the greatest storms yield the most spectacular rainbows. The moment hung heavy in the air. Maya's heart raced. She stepped back from the table, feeling the weight of the world on her shoulders. What had she done? She watched Langford, confident and composed now, teetering on the edge of disbelief, hope and fear intertwined. She pondered the implications. They were too vast, too real. Would he believe her? Pause. Breath. Then she noticed something in his eyes. A flicker. Recognition. Across town, the shadows loomed larger. Langford felt his world start to crack. His empire built with years of ambition threatened by an unseen betrayal. Each passing second felt like a countdown. Tick, tick, tick. But something sparked within him, a flicker of defiance. He remembered every late night, every sacrifice. Determination swelled fresh and fierce. He couldn't just stand by. Not anymore. In that dim light, an idea ignited. He turned to Maya, and the raw energy between them pulsed. Two souls drawn together by struggle. Thank you, he breathed, a voice barely above a whisper. The gravity of her warning didn't just weigh on him, it awoke him. He picked up his phone, dialing numbers with newfound resolve. I won't fall. Not today, he vowed. In the restaurant, Maya watched him transform. the uncertainty shedding like an old skin. Her heart raced. With his, their destinies now entwined. This wasn't just his fight. This was her fight too. She stood a little taller, her mind racing through possibilities. An unexpected ally was born from betrayal. A moment of clarity washed over her. Courage isn't the absence of fear, it's the resolve to act in its presence. Together they were unstoppable. The flicker burst into flame. She stepped forward, determination sparking within. With a new sense of purpose, they would face the storm and rise. From the ashes of doubt, something powerful was taking shape. Maya and Langford, two sides of the same coin, ready to rewrite their destinies. This was just the beginning. Voice over script, revenge, resolution section. The boardroom was filled with a palpable tension, the air thick with unspoken words, as Langford faced Dean Matt across the polished oak table. The morning sun streamed through the floor-to-ceiling windows, casting sharp angles of light that mirrored the confrontation unfolding within. You thought I wouldn't find out, didn't you? Langford's voice was steady but laced with an edge of betrayal. He spread the papers across the table, evidence of deception, greed, hidden in legal jargon. The very clauses that could have unravelled everything he built. Meanwhile, the online news tickers buzzed with the unfolding drama headlines blaring, CEO fights back, a masterclass in corporate integrity. As Maya stepped into the spotlight later that week, her heart raced alongside the cameras flashing and reporters shouting questions. Yet there she stood, resolute, every word poised and deliberate. Ethics matter. We owe it to ourselves and the future, she proclaimed, her voice unwavering. In that moment, she became more than a waitress. She was a beacon of change, a voice reminding the industry of its responsibility. Weeks later, the atmosphere in the boardroom shifted dramatically. Langford smiled a quiet, satisfied smirk, full of humility, as he presented Maya with her new office. She would lead the newly formed ethics division, a direct response to the lessons learned from their battle. "We did this together," he said, extending a hand for a firm handshake. No one could argue against the strength of their alliance now. Though the scars of betrayal lingered, they also bore proud witness to a journey fought with honour and integrity. Victory at last didn't erase the past, it simply illuminated the path forward, transforming pain into purpose. And as they looked toward the horizon, they knew every challenge faced would become a stepping stone for change, one courageous act at a time. In the end, the journey of Maya Williams and Christopher Langford reveals a truth that many would rather ignore. The weight of betrayal can either break us or forge an unbreakable bond. For Langford, the realization that his success was built on a foundation of unchecked trust has reshaped his understanding of power. He learned that behind every boardroom decision lies a human cost, and genuine leadership requires more than just strategic acumen. It demands a commitment to ethics and accountability. Maya, on the other hand, emerged from her struggle not just as a waitress, but as a beacon of integrity. Her decision to act, risking her own stability, taught her that bravery often comes in whispers rather than shouts. The intersection of their lives illustrates a powerful lesson. Each act of courage has the potential to inspire change far beyond our immediate circumstances. Yet, as we reflect on their story, a question lingers. Is revenge ever justifiable, or does it merely perpetuate a cycle of distrust and conflict? Some may argue that exposing a betrayer is a form of justice, while others may see it as a distraction from the greater goal of healing and progress. Let's consider this. Every choice we make shapes our future. Are we willing to hold true to our values, even when the stakes are high? As you ponder this question, I invite you to share your thoughts and experiences. Have you ever had to decide between personal loss and standing for what's right? Your voice matters. Let's discuss.